Hi, I'm Patricia Grabarek.
And I'm Katina Sawyer, and welcome to the Worker Being Podcast.
So, Katina, you have an article to share with us today. Want to give us a sneak peek before we chat a little bit about life?
Yes. So, in our podcast and on our website, and just in general, you may have heard about job satisfaction as a concept. And it's been around for 8 million years, and we've basically thought about it in the same way. And this article basically demonstrates that thinking about it in a different way, thinking about job satisfaction as it relates to meaning in your work, and there's multiple facets of meaning that we can talk about, actually tells you more about whether or not you'll be well and happy in your life than thinking about job satisfaction in the way that probably most of our listeners have heard about it in their work lives or if they've looked through the research before.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more. I hear it's a brand new article, so I haven't read it yet, so I'm very excited to hear you tell me all about it.
Hot off the presses. But before we jump into that, how's everything going with you? How are you settling in post honeymoon?
Good. This week's better. Last week was rough. But this week I'm definitely kind of back more in the groove and feeling like just kind of back to normal, doing my thing.
Good.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yay.
The post-wedding depression has started to subside.
Yeah.
So while I am sad it's over, I am no longer like dwelling on it the same way I maybe was last week.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I've overcome that to some extent. Now I'm just like wishing it was summer so bad because when we were in Hawaii, the weather was gorgeous. I got like a tan. I felt like all summery, and I was like, yay, I'm going to come back. And it's, mid-May. It's going to be beautiful. Summer's here. And it's like rained yesterday, and it's been so cold. I'm like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah.
I live in LA. It should not be happening.
Yes.
So I'm very sad about that.
I agree. I feel like I'm ready for summer. I don't want any more delay. And I just feel like I want to get my foot free from this cast, which is happening in 5 days, which I'm so happy about. And then that'll be better because at least I can free my leg when it's hot. Because I'll have a big boot thing, but it's removable, obviously. Permanent boot would be bad. So I want this thing off my leg. And then I want to be free with my life. And also, I don't know what's going to be under this cast when I take it off. So I need to prepare that for summer before I do anything. So cast off, leg preparation, and then I can start living a summery life.
Oh, yeah, your leg's probably going to be all weird. All mushy.
Mushy and just I don't know. It's going to be very hairy under there.
Oh, yeah. But that's an easy fix. That's an easy fix.
But yeah, so anyway, but yeah.
Has it been warm out there yet?
It is warm, but it's not been that nice. Right now it's raining. It was thunderstorming earlier this morning. And yeah, it's just been kind of bleh. There were a couple nice days over the past weekend. And, I know that, some folks listening are related to or are the people that I'm going to talk about. But over the past weekend, my cousin Seamus and his fiance Ange came to visit me as a surprise because
Cute.
I've been stuck on the couch and whatever. So they came to visit me. And the one day that they were there is actually super nice outside. So we went to a brewery for a couple hours and then went back home so I could put my leg back up. But but that was nice. But there haven't been that many nice days, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've had it's when I say it's cold, it's not actually cold. It's in the 60s. So for people that are not in California, that is probably not cold to you, but to me it's cold.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for it to be in the 70s and sunny all the time, and it's been kind of cloudy and there's been rainy days. We actually had a thunderstorm yesterday too. I mean, granted it lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest storm ever. It was super sunny, and then all of a sudden it got really dark, and then we had a thunderstorm, and then it was super sunny and warm again. And I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, that's
It was
weird.
so strange. It was not something that we ever see here. So it's actually not freezing cold, but it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
This coming weekend, and That's like beach weekend. That's like
Yeah.
the weekend that summer starts. Everyone goes to the beach.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to rain on Sunday,
Oh,
and
boo.
it's only supposed to be like 64 degrees on Monday. And I'm like, what the heck?
Boo.
Like, I'm not going to go and sit out on the beach like
Right.
when it's raining or in the 60s. Like, it's not warm enough. So I'm very sad because that's generally what I do on Memorial Day weekend is go to the beach. And I guess I'll like go to the beach and maybe walk around, but I don't know. I probably won't like beach it up. So
boo.
bummer.
Well, I hope that the weather has a sudden change of plans. And it says, not today, Patricia. I'm gonna be nice. I'm going to be nice for you.
You can have your beach time. Yeah. I wish. Are you doing anything for the long weekend?
Well, our friends, Anthony and Katie, are coming to visit. Usually I go to the shore for Memorial Day weekend with my family. But this year with all the leg crap, I'm just like, we're not doing that. Because also, like, anything sand, like, if I get sand in there, I'm going to be really mad.
That makes sense.
So I was like,
I wouldn't want to be near the beach with that either.
Yeah, I was like, I think that I should just stay home for one more weekend and then figure out a time to get to the beach later. But yeah, so we're trying to stick around DC, and our friends are coming to visit, so that'll be fun. And
be good.
yeah, so that'll all be good. My parents are leaving for the shore today, my brother and all my aunts and uncles and cousins. But we had a like little surprise birthday party for my brother. His birthday was on Monday. So we had a little surprise birthday party for my brother here. So I just got to see a bunch of my family and cousins and whatever. So while I will miss them, I did just see most of them anyway. So it'll be okay.
It'll be okay. And then you won't have like weird raw scratched up sand skin.
Yes.
So probably better.
Yes, I'll be far less grumpy if I don't have that.
Yeah, agreed.
True.
And then you can go to the beach when you're able to like remove your foot and wash it.
Yes.
When it's sandy.
Remove my foot?
Well, from the boot, not like actually take it off of you, but like
that'd be kind of cool.
From the boot.
That might make things even easier if you could just remove your foot entirely. I could just leave it here and let it heal and come back and find it later.
Yeah, put on a replacement foot. I mean,
why not? Science.
It sounds great.
Make it happen. Well, good. I'm glad that we're both gearing up for a long weekend, even if we're a little bit limited in our activities. We'll still have some time to relax, which is good. And hey, sitting on the couch and doing nothing can sometimes be fun as well.
Very true. Very true. I'm sure we'll do something, but we won't lay on the beach, so that's okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's okay.
You can lay on the couch and pretend you're on the beach.
Just turn on all the lights in the house so it's like sun is on me. Like
put
on my sunglasses.
One like light, like one like lamp burning on you. Just lay there with your sunglasses on. That'd be fun.
Perfect. That sounds ideal. And my couch is a little bit more comfortable than sand, so
yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree.
I'll give it that.
I agree. Awesome.
Well. So let's talk about your article.
Okay.
I'm curious now about this job satisfaction definition that's changed and how they're measuring it and what that looks like. So tell me all the things. What's the article and what do I need to know?
Yes. So the article just came out in the Journal of Business and Psychology, and it's called Meaning-Based Job-Related Well-Being, Exploring a Meaningful Work Conceptualization of Job Satisfaction. And it's by Teresa Rothhausen and Kevin Henderson. So basically, as I was mentioning before, they tried to demonstrate that the way that people have thought about job satisfaction for years and years and years. So like for people who are listening that don't know, like, and Patricia, like there's been like 50 to 75 years worth of research on job satisfaction. And we've basically thought about it in a pretty narrow way. So more or less like, how happy are people with their tasks in their job? How happy are people with their relationships in their job? And how happy are they with like the general organizational structure that they work in? And companies have kind of taken a hint from that and also conceptualized job satisfaction in a similar way. And a lot of the engagement measures out there now follow that same kind of focus.
Yeah, engagement's definitely like we have just changed the name.
Yes.
But it's basically the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So for us, like in IO, we talk a lot about job satisfaction, but for people out there, like engagement is a buzzier term, but it basically means the same thing. And a lot of what I've seen organizations, a lot of the popular tools for measuring engagement, and a lot of what I've seen organizations do when they come up with their own, like, you know, in-house ways of measuring engagement aligns a lot with, you know, how much do you like the people that you work with? How much do you like your supervisor? How much do you like your coworkers? How much do you like the job itself? How much do you like the organization that you're in? Like basically asking people the extent to which they're happy with certain facets of their job.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we thought about job satisfaction. And basically, what this article argues is that we've learned a lot about what actually makes people happy in a job since the time that people started conceptualizing job satisfaction in this way. And a lot of what we've learned is that there are other important things for predicting well-being besides those outcomes. So there's a lot of things, and we've covered some of this research in the podcast before, on meaning and impact and family and work-life balance and you know, thinking about how you can create the life that you want and professional development, things like that, that we haven't really taken as much into account in the job satisfaction literature as we could. So they came up with a new way of conceptualizing job satisfaction that actually ends up being better at predicting whether or not you'll be well at work.
Interesting. And you know what actually kind of sounds like? Some companies have done engagement where they look at things like you know, benefits and
Yeah.
work-life balance and some of those different areas you just mentioned.
Yep.
So it kind of sounds like it's almost like research is like, okay, well, companies have been measuring this in some way or another for a while. Like, we probably should be taking this into the research
Yeah.
too in a better, more meaningful way, because those things are also important,
Yeah.
and we aren't measuring it the way probably we should be.
Yeah.
In the research world.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did a bunch of studies in this paper, so I won't get into each individual study, but they tested this measure in samples of in smaller samples, but across all the samples, it's over 800 employees that they have, which is a pretty big study, and definitely enough power to tell us whether or not this is predicting over and above job satisfaction. So the basic idea is that they gave people the old version of job satisfaction measure and asked them to fill it out. And then they gave people the new version, and they looked at how those predicted things like engagement on the job or inclusion on the job, intentions to leave the job, work-family conflict, life, like overall life satisfaction. And what they basically found across all these studies is that even when you take these regular levels of job satisfaction into account, do I like my actual job tasks? Do I like the people I work with? Do I like the organization that I'm in? Even when they looked at those things and took out what was contributing to well-being from those aspects, the new aspects of job satisfaction still continued to tell us more information about what would make people well compared to the old scale. So this adds something new in terms of predicting whether or not people are going to want to leave their jobs, whether they're going to perceive that their work and family are conflicting, and whether they're just going to be generally happy with their lives overall.
Oh, that's so cool. I like it. I'm excited that we're kind of thinking about job satisfaction a little bit more broadly.
Yeah.
Because it is really, like you said, they're really looking at life overall. Like, are you happy outside of just the job, right? Like, yes, great, maybe you like the job tasks, but then there's so many other things that are coming into play, that we maybe weren't talking about when we talk about job satisfaction. So making it a bigger concept, I think is good.
Yeah, and companies care about making people satisfied, and researchers care about making people satisfied with their job, and job satisfaction has historically been linked to productivity. But I think an interesting thing about broadening it out and making it more about this meaning-based job satisfaction is thinking about what other kinds of things then will organizations spend time and money focusing on if they're thinking about satisfaction more broadly. So instead of just thinking about like, oh, we need to make the job more interesting, or we need to make sure the supervisors are treating people well, or coworkers are treating each other well, or like the organizational structure is clear or not ambiguous, or whatever the case may be, that instead of just thinking about those things, that it will maybe encourage people to think about, how do I create a work environment that allows people to find this kind of meaning in their job and have an impact in their job, as opposed to just thinking more kind of structurally or like brass tacks about it. And it also we also might find that when people are enhancing that part of their life, like that job satisfaction goes up, that it might be related to other things that maybe we haven't thought about the workplace as being so heavily related to, like physical health, for example. This kind of job satisfaction might be more related to those things, and we just haven't been aware of it. So it's always been the case that that's been true, but now that we're able to measure it and understand the impact, maybe we'll better get a sense of what the links are between other kinds of health outside and inside of the workplace that traditional job satisfaction wasn't really giving us a good window into.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I'm just thinking about like some engagement surveys that I've seen, and they like I said, they were measuring some of those things, like people's satisfaction with benefits, or like, are they happy with the training and development they get? So it's kind of tangential to what you're talking about. It's like some similarities. And people have been doing that kind of, some companies have been doing engagement surveys like that on their own. And then they're seeing like they're still looking at like relationships with performance.
Yeah.
But they're not really measuring any of the well-being side. So like, yeah, maybe if I'm really happy with all of my benefits or my work-life balance, I'm also still performing well. That makes sense. But we don't know the rest of the picture that we could find through research. That's a lot harder to actually measure if you're just doing internal organizational research. If your company is doing that research, you don't gather that same type of data. Like, you're not going to ask your employees about their physical health. You really can't.
Right.
So you don't get that research. You don't get that information. You just know, like, okay, it is important for performance. And then we can make that, we can guess that maybe it impacts well-being. But now that we're measuring it on the research side of things, we could actually find out if that's the case.
Yeah.
And then companies will know, okay, well, we can measure it for performance. We can see that direct line here. But then we know from research that it actually impacts physical health. So even though we're not going to ask our employees about their physical health, we know that we're going to be helping improve them because we've seen this research.
Yeah, totally. And I think it just broadens people's perspective on what they should be striving to affect. So it's like, yeah, we've been thinking about, some of the traditional job satisfaction items are things like, I'm satisfied in general with the work tasks I do each day. I'm satisfied with the activities I do. I'm satisfied with the regular components of my job. I'm satisfied with the relationships I have with people I work with regularly. I'm satisfied with the overall organizational structure within which I work. Like, those are the kinds of things we've been thinking about. So if that's what you're measuring, when companies go to fix things, they're going to look to fix the things that they're measuring, right? So they're going to fix the tasks. They're going to train people to be better at interpersonal skills. They're going to fix, how the structure is perceived by other people, or maybe some policies or rules or regulations that employees have to follow, or nuts and bolts, like how many vacation days do you get, or things like that, which are all important. But this new measure is pushing people to think about changing things in a new way. And then as you're changing those things in a new way, you're probably going to see an impact in a new way as well. Which I think is super important.
So, Katina, tell me a little bit more about the measure so that we can kind of understand what you mean by the types of changes people are going to be making with organizations if they think about things more broadly. So, like, you keep talking about meaning, et cetera. So I'd just like to know a little bit more about the nitty gritty.
Yep. So they had several different dimensions that were involved in this new measure. So the first is expression. So the idea that your job allows you to express important aspects of who you are. So the items are: my job allows me to express important aspects of who I am. I'm satisfied with how my job expresses who I am. And I'm satisfied with the sense of integrity that I have with core aspects of myself in doing this job. So this is almost like an authenticity type measure. Am I able to actually be who I want to be as a part of this job? And do I feel like this job is a good extension of who I see myself as?
That's interesting. So
yeah.
It goes to your identity to some degree.
Yeah.
About who you are and how your job complements that.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And there's been a lot of literature on authenticity, and we've talked about authenticity on the website before too. So I think it sort of encompasses that. Do I feel like I can be who I am at work? And also, do I feel like my job really reflects who I am, which is so important to people. Another dimension is satisfaction with development, which is very straightforward. I'm satisfied with the way my job contributes to my development. I'm satisfied with how my job continues to facilitate my learning and growth. and I'm satisfied with the way I continue to grow and develop from doing my job. So, am I getting opportunities to see myself growing as a person as a result of working here?
Interesting. Yeah, the measures that I've seen that companies do in their engagement surveys are typically like, I think I'm getting enough, training and development. So it's a little bit more like a benefits perspective versus like I'm growing in my job. So I think that they're related, but it does seem to be slightly different focus where it's more about, am I growing and am I developing, or versus like, my company is giving me enough training. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really important one that I don't see often in engagement surveys. There's some like again, somewhat sort of on the side of it, like um, pride in the company, or if you feel like a bit your understand your role in the company, like how am I fitting into this bigger picture? So it's like sort of related, but like not quite as deep as what it sounds like they're measuring here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they're trying to really get into this idea of, do I see what I'm making on a daily basis actually like going into the world and doing something that I think is cool. And the good thing about the measure, I think, is that it's not defining what that value or impact is. So everybody might have a
Mm-hmm.
different definition of what they see as being valuable. So it's not like this like helps people who are vulnerable, or this help, like whatever. It's not specific. It's like whatever you value, are you finding that value or purpose in the job?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then standard of living is another one. So instead of thinking about it like, are you satisfied with your pay? They ask the question a little bit differently. Are you satisfied with the way your job contributes to your overall life conditions? Are you satisfied
Hmm.
with the income that your job provides so that you can take care of loved ones? And does your job provide enough money so that you're living the life that you want? So, again, it's rooted in like, what do I see for myself in terms of what kind of life that I want? And is it matching with that, instead of saying like, do I think that my pay is fair? For example, fair could be based on the market rate, but so I could think my pay is fair, but I might think it exceeds actually what I need to live a life that's comfortable and take care of my families. Or I could think, but it's not enough for me to take care of people that I care for, or for me to feel comfortable in life. So it asks the question a little bit differently.
And I think that actually, like, it's interesting because you went immediately towards um, kind of a different way that I was thinking about it and how it would be different. Because I think when you're asked about pay in an engagement survey, for example, I feel like a lot of employees will say that they're underpaid, they want more, but just because purely like from a like almost like an ambition perspective, like I think I deserve to be paid more, right? Like a lot of times people just like when they're looking for the next step in their career, the next step, whatever, they want more money.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with how it's handling their life, right? So I might answer, like for example, let's just pretend I'm taking one. I might say, I think I could use more money because, I think, okay, well, I've been in this job for a while, I do a good job, I deserve more money,
Right.
right? Whatever. But then if I'm asked that question in this perspective, I would probably say, I don't necessarily need more money
Right.
because I am living the life, right?
Yeah.
Granted, living expenses are very high in LA.
Right.
So if I want to buy a house, yes, they have to give me like hundreds of thousands
Right,
more
right,
dollars, but
right.
that's not realistic.
Right, right, right.
But like in general, you know, I think that from my perspective, when I was thinking about that question, I almost feel like the general pay question, like, am I making enough or am I happy with my pay? I think people are more likely to be negative about that.
Yeah.
And then the other one is more realistic.
Yep.
Like positive or negative, depending on your situation. You know, maybe you'd be answering more positively. Maybe you would still be answering negatively. I don't know. It depends on what role you're in and all of that. But I think that there's more variability probably in the response to that question than the types of questions we generally see around pay.
Yeah, because you're thinking about what do I actually need to be happy as opposed to what would sound nice or what do I want to tell people I make or what do I think my friends are making or, you know, it's a different lens to think about more necessity than it is to think about, or, you know, what is it that you actually want than to think about why somebody should be paying you more just on principle. So, and a lot of times I think, you know, we've talked about pay fairness a lot. If you're not paying people fairly, they're probably going to feel that they're not getting what they should. And that's normal, right? But if you're paying people fairly, a lot of times, if people just feel like they're not being recognized by the company, they could feel like they deserve more money or they need more money just to feel like somebody cares that they're doing a good job. But when they really think about whether or not they need more money, they might think more broadly about, well, maybe it's not the money that I actually need. I'm thinking of money because that's the first thing that comes to mind about how I might be recognized. But at the end of the day, there might be other things that are missing from my job that might be more important that this measure forces people to think a little bit harder about.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think it's always easy to say you want more money.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants more money.
Right. Right.
It's just a very like simple question.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously, give me more money. I'd be happy with more money. But when you think about it a little bit more deeply, money might not be the only factor. And I think wording it in that way makes it seem like, okay, well, no, I actually don't need more money to take care of my loved ones in the way I'd want to. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that there's some nuance that those items bring in that maybe we haven't been asking when we just have been asking about pay in more typical ways.
Yeah. And I also think like we're just taught to negotiate for money, right? So it's like you get used to thinking along those lines without really thinking hard about like, is that what I actually want? Like when I was with my previous employer, like I got to a point where I just knew I needed to get out of there. And people were like, oh, well, maybe if you get another offer and you get more money, but it's like, there's not at some point there's not anything anyone can do to fix it. Like money does it. So it was like, yeah, I could negotiate for more money, but what does that really do? You know what I mean? Like it's not fixing the actual problem that I'm having, which is not related to money.
Right.
So yeah. So that's one. And then there are two more left. One is satisfaction with impact of your job on your family. So it's a little bit different than work-family conflict. They're basically asking, am I satisfied with the way that my job impacts my family as I define family? The way that my job impacts those who are most important to me in life and the benefits of my job to my family or others who are important to me. So basically asking what's comprehensively the way that this job impacts their life and am I happy with that?
So that can get to all sorts of things as you're defining it yourself, right? So it could be long hours. Am I not spending enough time with people? That could actually even get towards the money thing, right?
Yeah.
Do I not have enough money to cover the expenses that I have? Or am I not able to pick up kids from school because I don't have flexibility in my hours? So it kind of gets at a lot of different factors in a very simple way.
Yeah. Yep. And I also think it makes people think less about like, do I feel like my own work and life are conflicting based on my preferences? But it also takes you out of it and says, you know, are the people around me that I love happy with how I'm showing up or how this job actually impacts their ability to live a happy life? And how do I feel about that? Which is kind of a different sort of question, I think.
Right. So it'd be like, okay, would my partner think I'm spending enough time with them?
Right. Yep.
Not just me.
Yeah.
But have I heard complaints from that person?
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
Have I heard complaints from my partner about the fact that I'm not able to pick up the kid from school when they're sick
Right.
on a random Tuesday?
Yep.
Have I heard complaints, or from, well, I can't really hear complaints from your dog, but like,
yeah.
has my dog peed on the rug a
Right.
couple more times than maybe they should have because I haven't been home in time?
Yeah. Yep.
Those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it also causes you to think about, am I present? Am I actually showing up for the people that care about me? And how would they answer this question? Which is, again, a really different way of thinking about that than just, do I perceive this as a conflict?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I like that conceptualization. And then the last one is satisfaction with the impact of your job on your life from a comprehensive, like holistic perspective. So, how your job fits with a good overall life as you define it, how your job contributes to your life overall, and the way that your job makes your life good. So, thinking about how do you define a good life, and is your job helping you get there or not?
Right. So then it makes people think about, again, life more broadly. So, am I getting to go to the workout classes I want to go to? Am I getting to make that impact that I want to make in the workplace? That's like, it seems like it's very, very broad. So it kind of encompasses some of the other things they measured.
Mm-hmm.
But how, am I living the life I want to be living? Am I happy where I am overall, not just in the job itself? And I like that. I think that we, like the two of us, have really talked about workplace wellness in that way as well, that, being happy in your workplace is great, but how does it impact your overall well-being in your broader life?
Yeah.
And I feel like they're taking a very similar perspective, where your job doesn't just impact your job or that time where you're in work and that's it. Like, it does have an impact from your overall life perspective, because it is a big part of your life, and the money from it is what pays for your life. Like, everything else kind of impacts your life. So it is a huge part of your overall life satisfaction.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to think about it so broadly, that what is that job doing to impact the life that I'm leading, and is that a positive thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that these items really help you to think about, what is the life that I want? What's the life that I want that my family wants? What creates comfort and meaning and happiness for us? And what is the extent to which the job is contributing to that overall sense of happiness and meaning that I have in life, as opposed to thinking about, like, am I happy when I'm doing a task, or do I generally feel pleasant when I'm interacting with my coworkers, or do I generally feel happy with the structure of the organization? Those are all still important, but it gets you to think broadly about, like, in my life, in the grand scheme of my life, how does this job fit in, and is it contributing positively to my life or not?
It's so interesting. I'm really curious to see what research comes out of all of this.
Yeah.
So, we've talked a lot about research on job satisfaction. And now there's a new measure, like people that use that measure. I'm so curious to see how that ends up changing some of the research, or what new learnings are going to come of it now that somebody's developed this type of measure.
Totally. And because it's brand new, there's so much time for people to be able to use it and build on it. So I'm excited too. And I think that, for folks out there that are interested in measuring something like this in their own workplace, it would be really cool for you to see, if you've been doing traditional satisfaction surveys or traditional engagement surveys, and you haven't been able to move the needle on it, or you feel like you still don't really understand what people want because you put things in place but it's not having the impact that you want. It might be worthwhile trying to ask questions like these to see if you get different kinds of responses, and those different responses might lead you to different ways of addressing problems that you didn't know existed in this way. So I think it's kind of a cool idea to also take stock in your own company and ask these kinds of questions and see what kind of answers you get.
Yeah, agreed. I think you can do that at a leadership level, or HR, running engagement surveys, but then also in a team setting as well. If you're managing a team, you can definitely bring this in and talk to people about these types of concepts, or even survey the team if they want to keep it anonymous. They can always just keep their own responses and then have conversations around it. Like, if you answer these questions, what do you think about the meaning of this job? Like, what would you want to see in terms of meaning, and building up your team around these ideas so that they're happier overall. And really, I mean, I can imagine that if everything in this survey is positive, right? You feel that you're making an impact. There's some sort of purpose behind what you're doing. Your family is impacted positively. Your life is impacted positively. You're growing. Obviously, you're going to be way more committed to a job like that.
Right.
And I think that type of commitment is going to be much stronger than the type of commitment we see with just typical job satisfaction.
Yeah.
And it'll be nice to see how that plays out in the research over time, but just based on the types of questions, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So it'd be great if you're able to think about this yourself, but then also if you're leading a team or if you have any influence over others and like what their jobs look like, thinking about this for those people so that you can make a huge impact on their life by trying to build out jobs that are more meaningful, that have more purpose, and that really do impact their life in positive ways.
Yeah, totally. I agree. So yeah, if you're an individual, you might want to look through the items and think to yourself, how much does my job address these kinds of things? And it might help you to assess what your next move might look like, or things that you didn't think of to actually focus on in making your own work life better. You could, if you trust your manager, you could bring it to your manager and say, found this interesting work and we might want to start thinking about things differently. And then if you're a manager, of course, asking those questions about your team. If you're a senior leader, asking the questions about the organization. It might just lead you down a path that, when you ask different questions, when you ask questions differently, you get different answers. And that doesn't mean that, you're discovering something that hasn't been there before. It's always been there. It's just that now you have the opportunity to better understand it and to, you can't predict something unless you understand what drives it. And so this gives an opportunity to understand new drivers of well-being that, we haven't been able to capture so far.
I'm excited to see where all this goes. I think it's great. Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. And I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Of course everyone did, because I loved it. So,
so they have to,
right?
Yes.
So they have to love
it.
Yes,
they did.
Well, we'd love to hear from all of our listeners. What do you think about this concept? Does it make sense to you? Or have you seen engagement surveys that cover some of these things? Or maybe are you thinking about how you can change those engagement surveys to get to know your teams and organization a little bit better? Let us know. You can find us at workerbeing.com. You can email us at workerbeing@gmail.com, and you can contact us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at workerbeing. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. The Worker Being podcast is hosted by us, Patricia Grabarek
and Katina Sawyer, and produced by Allie Johnson.